Good morning and welcome to another episode of Judging by the Cover. This week we're looking at My Child of Ages, a game from Chubby Pixel, which is an indie studio, I'm guessing, that I have never heard of. So, with doing minimal research into this, we are judging this game purely by what we see on the store page. Now, I did take a brief look at the Steam page, which has an extra trailer that basically shows a little bit of similar stuff. It expands a little bit on the in the other trailer, but My Child of Ages does give us a little bit of a trailer to go on here, and it very much gives a vibe of Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, very heavily inspired by Ocarina of Time, with the aspect of a past and future to unravel whatever mysteries are going on in the game. So first, we're going to go ahead and dive into the explanation of the game here. We follow Mai on her journey through a shattered world as she searches for her identity and the origin of the mysterious creatures that threaten the balance of the universe. So, already we're jumping right in and with an understanding that there is some kind of huge cataclysm going on. Travel with her through past and future thanks to the sacred plant that bridges time and space. With the features, explore ancient dungeons, mastering the arcane power of the Ouroboros stone. So something into the Ouroboros mythos about something to do with infinity and time and all that. Rewrite history, you bend space-time to your will and reshape the future using Mai's unique powers. You play as Mai through different stages of her life, from childhood to adolescence. Okay, so it seems like just from that description alone, that there's probably a little bit more of a progression thing than only child and adult forms the way you see in the classic Ocarina of Time. Engage in dynamic and technical battles, dodge, defend, and strike with both melee and ranged attacks. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive into that a little bit because from what the trailer showed, I do have a little bit of a mixed bag of feelings about that one. Over 20 hours of gameplay featuring ancient caves to investigate and abandoned factories to explore. So, 20-hour game from an indie studio, $15, currently on sale for 12 for a little while anyways, while it's new. And it says a co-op mode. You play with friends in the main adventure and get help from the primordial spirit. The second player will be able to take control of enemies to assist you in battles and much more. So there's a little note there. I'm interested to know like what kind of things that a second player can do. Is it like now if they're taking control of enemies and basically acting in a support role? That sounds kind of like a Kirby Superstar or Sonic the Hedgehog 2 kind of thing, where the second player is controlling like your secondary character in there. Through countless journeys across time, you will reshape the fate of the primordial universe. Now, there is a lot there, not as much as the Steam page. I am a little miffed that they left some of the information out of the Steam page, although considering that this is an indie game, it makes sense that maybe they would exclude some of this description from the Nintendo store page, since the Steam page does say venture through past and future, exploring Zelda like dungeons and uncover the bond that ties Mai to the enigmatic figure who will guide her throughout the adventure, teaching her the mastery of the arcane Ouroboros stone. So there is that. Gameplay mechanics evolve seamlessly, shifting from precision platforming to hack and slash combat, adapting to the era you explore. It does give us a little bit of information there, and it expands a little bit in with some images for it. So the Steam page gives a little more detail, but at the very least, it does break down what to expect with the game here from the Nintendo store page. Even the addition of a second trailer doesn't really add so much to the Steam page that it's going to change the judgment either way. What we do have with some screenshots, we do see close ups of the character. We see them in motion with the landscape. Now, it does seem like a little bit of a simplistically rendered landscape, which is not a bad thing. I have seen some incredibly good looking things with a simple look. It's bright, it's colorful, you can tell what is what in the screenshots. The enemies are a point of contention for me. All the screenshots and all the trailer footage that I've seen show the enemies as these shadowy blobs with masks. Now, the masks do have a little bit of variance to them, it looks like, but not so much that I can really discern if the mask has some sort of meaningful aspect to their difference, or if most of the how you approach them seems to come from the blob shape themselves. We do see some of them have like some armor plating, so they're probably going to be more resistant unless you hit weak points. But for the most part, the enemies, I really have. It's just a point of contention here where the globulous monsters seem overly simplistic, as if to say that they tried to withhold their resources when making these so that they only really had to apply like one kind of rendering texture to the enemies, as opposed to giving enemies like a vibrant and distinctive look depending on what type it was. Like this could have easily been now pulling from the Zelda inspiration. This could have been like an Octorok and a like an ogre situation. The little one could have been, I don't know, some moblin or something like that. Something a little more distinctive than just these dark blobs. We do see some other nice screenshots. The landscapes and the environments do look good. It shows like a little. I'm guessing there's some kind of a song or sound based mechanic to this for opening some doors. We do see the Elder Mai running from okay, spiders and an armored spider. So the enemy, like there is some diversity to the enemy variants. It's just a matter of them all having the same texture look to them that it just kind of bugs me. I get that it's an indie studio. I don't know if this is their first project or how much they put into that. It just feels like a little bit of a cop out, but I don't want to be too harsh on them because like I said, the indie studio, I'm not familiar with their name or if they have any previous work, but it does seem like and it's not the first time I've seen this kind of thing where enemies all had the same kind of like blob look to them. It just it kind of detracted from the environment. Now I know like some stuff like Kingdom Hearts Heartless had that same kind of like shadow creature vibe, but a lot of them still had so much variance to them and to their designs where they weren't just the blobs. Like they had different kinds of armor and forms depending on the environment they were in. Um, that's pretty much what the screenshots give us is just a very little minor snippet of the combat and everything like that. That said, I have to say it's not the most favorable store page. I would say with the store page, I'm probably gauging about a 5 out of 10 as to whether I would even jump on this. Now, if you are a diehard fan of like Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, that kind of world and dungeon and exploration, this game is probably right up your alley, being showing very clearly that it is heavily very heavily inspired by those, which not a bad thing. Like a lot of times these kinds of newer games that come out do take a lot of inspiration. Heck, Stardew Valley is heavily inspired by classic Harvest Moon, and that's one of the most successful games of our era today. But as we can see from the trailer here, it feels a little overly familiar for people that may have played a lot of those growing up. But the world, I feel like the 5 out of 10, I don't want that to be treated as too negative. That's mostly a rating of the store page. The game itself does look large enough on a scale. It's just the enemies in combat are what feel the most limiting for what I might expect from it. But the world and the potential story that we could be looking at here is probably the biggest draw for this. If I were to pick something like this up, I might wait for it to go on a little bit more of a sale than $12.99 myself so that I could dive in and to get into the world. But honestly, it's the combat that feels most bare bones just from the trailer. Now, maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Maybe the trailer's just not doing a great job of showcasing what to expect from the combat. But it does seem to be a lot of kiting enemies and trying to, do a little bit of crowd control while you're dealing with things in more limited capacity than what they throw at you. But the platforming and the vibrance of the world, I do appreciate that. Like I said, it's not a completely negative aspect to this. I'm rating 5 out of 10 in my personal opinion of this game. But the world building and the story of the world does appear to be what I am most interested in. So if we see a better sale for this, I may jump on this in the future, but I might need a bit more convincing myself. If anybody else out there has experience with this, if you've tried it out, let me know. It is on sale on the Switch eShop currently at the time of this recording and upload. And of course, some months down the line, it probably won't be. Steam has it full price for $14.99. Plus some extra charge for soundtrack, which the audio from the trailers does sound nice. It's a nice little ambient soundtrack that it has going. And it does look well rendered, even with its simple landscape textures and everything. Like it's enough to draw me in and get invested in it, because we don't always need hyper realistic graphics. It's just my biggest hangup is the combat does not look as interesting as it could have been compared to what we've seen in other indie games of our time.